And welcome back to This Week in Politics here on KSFY. We're on the road this week at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, talking with economist Dr. Ernie Goss. You know, it wasn't that long ago that Republicans in Congress, backed by President Trump, set into motion a series of tax cuts that they said would stimulate the economy, stimulate business growth, and eventually trickle down and increase wages for workers border to border and coast to coast. Well, we asked Dr. Goss if that has happened or not. The concern when the tax cuts were signed into law is that they would be good for businesses, but not necessarily good for workers. When we asked Dr. Goss if the tax cuts had lit a fire under the U.S. economy, he told us, yes.
It is stimulating the economy. It is boosting the overall economy. It is bringing men and women that were discouraged back into the labor market. It is increasing employment.
But what about workers' wages?
Has it spilled down into wages? Not yet. The wage growth is still year over year is about 2.7%, so it's not showing up there yet. It will, I think it will.
While there is a lot of concern right now surrounding tariffs and trade, Goss says the economic story for the United States right now is a good one. For example,
we've got the lowest unemployment rate, 3.8%, that we've had in 18 years.
But when it comes to the individual stories of individual states, that requires a finer level of attention. I asked Goss to give me an overall view of how he thinks South Dakota's economy is doing statewide.
If you look at the numbers, our surveys right now say South Dakota is very strong. Look at manufacturing growth in South Dakota, very strong. Look at banking growth in South Dakota, very strong. Look at healthcare growth in South Dakota, very strong. But on the flip side, the rural areas are still having some issues with agriculture and with energy as well.
But when you're an economist like Goss is, the buzzword that keeps coming up is globalization and how the U.S. compares with the other big economies of the world. For example, while Goss says the U.S. economy is growing and expanding, he says it is not keeping up with the growth of the Chinese economy. And as China continues to gain economic strength in this financial version of keeping up with the Joneses, America is holding its own. That's the good news.
We are the most productive manufacturers on the face of the globe, more productive. Our farmers are the most productive on the face of the globe. Our energy sector now, we're second only to Russia in terms of oil production. I mean, we are the productivity juggernaut.
But now, here's the bad news. The thing that could undo all the good economic news in the U.S. right now, the federal budget deficit.
The latest numbers say the budget deficit is up 23% over the same period last year. 23%. Now, I'm a conservative economist, and I like to see the free market expand, and I think it is good, but you do have to be concerned about the spending that's not being reined in.
According to the Bipartisan Policy Center, by the end of this September, America's budget deficit could be sitting at $793 billion. That is money that the United States does not have, but is spending anyway. Now, Ernie Goss says on top of that, add in the trade war we discussed in our last segment, and the domino effect you could see would be tremendous.
Trade restrictions, prices go up for steel coming in. Steel, already said, we're seeing the prices going up. Of course, then the machinery manufacturing, which is a big industry in South Dakota, they have to pay more for steel and aluminum. All of a sudden, they got to increase their prices. So prices go up, interest rates go up. All of a sudden, mortgage people are priced out of a house.
The rules of the economy are similar to the rules of physics. For every action, there can be an equal and opposite reaction. And as always, we thank Dr. Ernie Goss for spending some time with us tonight. We will be back to wrap things up right after this. You are watching This Week in Politics on KSFY.